you.
Thanks, Debbie. So hi everyone, as Debbie said, I'm Dani, this is Josie. We're going to stay standing this way round for the whole of the presentation, just so you know which one's which, a bit like Ant and Dec. We were thrilled to win one of the inaugural awards from REBA for Wellbeing, and we're really pleased to be here today to talk you through some of our wellbeing journey.
Brilliant. So to give you some background as to how we aligned and how we worked really closely together, we went through a significant restructure in 2015 through into 2016. It was a widespread restructure across the business at all levels through all departments. So you can imagine there was numerous conversations going on about where was the right sit and fit for occupational health and wellbeing. And we also wanted to identify how could we gain the most gains from an in-house service and actually get that unique kind of wow factor where we know our business, we know it well, and how could we really deliver with our reward colleagues to the benefit of our employees. So we were already working to identify synergies and focus together. And it was quite clear at this point that it seemed a winning situation. So there was a clear decision-making process that we would actually fit really well within the people team and into reward directly. So that was a functional operational shift from our current report line into the people team. We'd worked closely together on shared goals, in particular relation to our health benefits provision. And we undertook a health risk audit using data from our benefits providers. And this identified some clear areas of health risk where we could actually work really closely together to plug any gaps that we could see. We also took this opportunity to look at our current challenges and further the opportunities to work together. Namely for improvement and positive change. And this really came to light when we took part in our renewals process for our income protection provision and our private medical insurance provision. Dani previously, as benefits manager, would have solely managed this process. But as we were working closely together, Dani brought her expertise in the management of that process side, whereas I would bring the health, the data, the real life scenarios, the people bit to that scenario. And that enabled us to really hone down the service that we wanted for our employees to better really their experience.
So once we were working together, we identified some drivers that we were working towards. So we knew that we needed to really increase our manager ownership for wellbeing of their teams. It's all too easy in an airline operational environment for some incident that happens that day to be the critical thing to deal with, and for therefore wellbeing and sickness absence issues potentially to drop down the list of priorities on that day. We knew we wanted to have a positive impact on our risk profile so that we could continue to provide a suite of benefits that were both affordable and sustainable. And we also knew that we needed to build a baseline of data, because without having that, we couldn't then report some meaningful MI to our leadership team. This one's pretty obvious, probably what we're all aiming for. We knew we wanted to have a healthy and happy and motivated workforce, and that if we had that, then the individuals working for us would thrive. And we also wanted to make the most of maximising provider support, a lot of which is out there for no extra cost to you. Particularly, we wanted to utilise services relating to mental health.
Okay, so we really recognised that this was a time for change. We had all of the platforms, if you like, working together to be able to enable that change quite well. We recognised as well that we were really reactive as a business, and we wanted to make a significant change in that space. We wanted to become less reactive and clearly more proactive to the benefit of everybody. We held a number of workshops with key stakeholders from around the business to actually try and work out what did we have currently in-house and how available was it and who could see that we had it. It was clearly available, we worked that out, but it wasn't joined up. And so people couldn't access the relevant supports that they needed quickly and easily. So one of our key areas for change was to communicate clearly with each of our business sort of units, if you like, and have that open dialogue, that two-way conversation. We also recognised we needed to work on a strategy. So what would that look like? We determined that we would go for a three-pillared approach. We did consider a fourth pillar. So our current three pillars are mental, physical and financial well-being. We had a fourth pillar which was environmental, but we actually just determined that we wanted it to be as simple and clear and as easily accessible as we could possibly make for our employees. So we then came up with a wellbeing brand and a strapline. We realised we needed to have a communication tool to get our messaging out there well, visibly and clearly. And so we worked with our design team on a lovely strapline, which is working well and living better. We also recognised that we needed some help in order to be able to do this and carry out some of the work that we could see down the line. So we created our wellbeing specialist role. And primarily, and currently I would say that this role has been significant in us being able to manage our sickness absence data well. This role has also looked at policy and process and the actual teaching, training and supporting of managers to follow the processes that we had in place. Ideally, future world, it wouldn't be quite so process data driven. This role we would see as being wholly interactive out there throughout the business, driving some of the initiatives and targeted health intervention that we can see is needed. And finally, we were clear that we couldn't do anything without our leadership team on board. We needed to give them sight about where we were currently at, some of the challenges we were facing and where we would like to be. And clearly, we wanted a sponsor to take the messaging out there. So, what we did was worked really closely with our leadership team. We provided each senior leadership group with some data on their own departmental current sickness, absence, health trends, and I have to say, many were very surprised at the levels of data that we were providing to them. So we took it upon ourselves to travel around, provide this information, also giving them an update on what we currently had, some of the processes, and a call to action in some departments. We were clearly able to highlight the risks that were there, the health risks in particular to the business, and we could then provide recommendations between us to actually address. In doing all of this work, we recognised that there was a huge gap, a massive disconnect really between our managers' familiarity with policy, the toolkits and the resources, and what our employees actually needed. So we worked really hard with our ER team to try and plug that gap, to highlight, educate and give awareness on what we had in-house, in place, so that we could tool our managers to be able to manage better, more efficiently, more quickly, which obviously enables help to be implemented quicker when needed. We wanted also to highlight the positive effects and the positive impact of wellbeing, in that this would very likely help with greater retention of our staff. We already have a fairly strong employer brand, but it would only serve to strengthen this. It would help us with recruitment, it would increase productivity. Clearly there were winning cost savings if we have a healthy, happy, motivated workforce, and sustainability of the benefits. We couldn't do this alone though, and so we wanted an advocate at senior leadership team level to get that message out across all levels and to the business. And it would have been really easy for us to take an obvious choice in our Senior Vice President of People to take on that role. But actually what we agreed is that it would be better placed for a functional operational leader to take this message out there. And so we're lucky enough to have Jo Thompson, who's MD of Virgin Holidays, who's taken on that role. It also helps that he's very comfortable on a tandem, and he's very happy to cycle around the very highly exciting industrial estate of Crawley, spreading our message with a video chasing after him. Certainly helped with our Bikes to Work scheme messaging. So he's great at that, and he's living and breathing that kind of message, and that really brings it alive. It goes without saying, if we can increase our happiness and our motivation and our wellness of our staff, then clearly we will increase our engagement within that. That drives customer service excellence, which clearly drives revenue growth. So there's clear wins for us all.
So what did we then do on a practical level to change the benefits that we were offering? So we've talked about our 3 pillars, so we've got them here: mental, physical and financial. So under the mental health pillar, we added in and outpatient cover to our private medical insurance, which we'd not had before. So we're just starting to see a movement on a take-up of people using that. We did a review of all the services, psychological support services that we had across the various benefits providers, and we pulled together a guide for our managers so that they could easily see these are all the options available to you, and this is how you contact them, and this is how you can guide your employee to the right place. We worked with our providers as well to use their support to run various stress awareness courses and mental health first aid courses for all our managers. And we also had Josie qualify as a mental health first aid instructor. Then under our physical pillar, we, as a business, took part in the Virgin Pulse Global Challenge, which probably a lot of you have done before. That was a really engaging process for our employees. We had about 1,500 people take part in teams of 7. It really drove competition within teams. There was lots of league tables going on, prizes flying around, so that was really great for engagement. And we found that lots of people then purchased Fitbits, pedometers of their own after the challenge had finished and have carried on under that vein. One of our really great successes was introducing a digital GP service, and we have around 9,500 employees, and over 50% of them have signed up for that service. And since November, over 700 appointments have been used. So that's a great tool for our employees to just get that quick GP service instead of waiting a couple of weeks to get an appointment. We mentioned Bikes to Work. We opened that scheme all year under popular demand from the employees. And then we also changed our private medical provision to give increased flexibility and choice to the employees within that policy, which again was something that they had actively been asking for. Then under our financial health pillar, we introduced single sign-on to pension accounts. Again, an amazing engagement success. It doubled the amount of people that had looked at their pension account, which is pretty staggering. And it also managed to reduce calls into the call centre with people just ringing in to check their password. Haven't ever accessed my account because I don't know my password. Took all that angst away and really increased engagement with pensions. We'd also aligned our pension default investment options to reflect the pension freedoms. So that gave people, a clearer insight into the investment strategies and where they might want to go in retirement. We added some life cover for all our Virgin Holidays retail employees, which was not commonplace in the retail market. So that was great to bring them in line with the rest of our employees. And we've introduced a financial education tool so that we can really get individual financial education to our employees at the right time when they need it. So what did we do then to communicate all this great stuff that we had out to our employees? So Josie mentioned earlier our wellbeing brand. So this is our brand. As you can see, we can use the whole icon to identify us when we're out at events or messaging, or we can break out the individual pillars of financial, physical and financial health and mental health. It also includes our strapline, working well, living better, and all encompassed within a heart, because really our wellbeing strategy is at the heart of our entire business strategy. So we went out around the business and did lots of road shows. We utilised support from all our providers in doing that, because we really wanted to encourage our employees to take some individual responsibility for their wellbeing as well as what we were driving as a company. We've also run some great campaigns based on the back of this. We had Take 15 Minutes to Check Your Finances back in February, which really encouraged people to, again, look at their pension, do some financial health checks, get their finances in order for the new year. During Mental Health Awareness Week, we hosted lots of tea and talk events around the business. That was really well received and really easy to run, even in places where there was only 1 or 2 employees. Everyone's got time to sit down, have a cup of tea, have a slice of cake, have a chat. And we also ran a competition during that week of take a selfie, telling us how you chill, just to encourage people to have that chat and have that discussion. We also ran a great campaign for male cancer awareness, which was aptly named Check Your Nuts, and was really primarily targeted at our engineering bases where we're heavily male-focused employees. We've used basically every channel available to us for communicating our wellbeing strategy across the business. So we've used posters, screensavers, TV screens, videos, intranet, you name it, we've used it. But one thing that was key to how we communicated was that earlier in the year we introduced Workplace, which is Facebook's tool for work. It works exactly the same way as normal Facebook. So there's no training really involved for employees on how to use it, which meant it's really easily accessible for everyone to just download an app on their mobile phone and get going with no need to kind of have any training, as I say. This is really key for us because over half of our workforce are remote workers, so we needed something that we could outreach to everyone. So as I said, it works like Facebook, so we could post interesting articles, items from the news, events that we've got going on, information. But not only could we post, in what we had created was a wellbeing group that all the employees were in, they could also post. And they can share posts, they can like, they can comment, they can question. That's sometimes the downside because they do expect then an immediate response when they do put on a question. And basically that really has revolutionised our comms because it's instant. We don't have to, brief an internal comms team, write a long article, get that checked. It is literally in the moment and we can react to whatever's going on right at that minute. So as I say, that's really revolutionised our communications strategy.
Brilliant. So that's given you, just check my slides. Yep, so that's given you a brief insight into our Working Well, Living Better strategy, giving you a bit of a whistle-stop tour from our 2 years ago to today. So we're clearly not there yet. We're in the process of setting our next corporate 3-year strategy, and wellbeing will feature heavily within that. And so we're working hard to get this out there. So we've still got a way to go. Everyone calls it a journey. I always think of Simon Cowell when he says we're on a journey. Well,
We've had Ant and Dec and Simon Cowell references now.
I know. we're definitely on a journey, and there's plenty left to be done, and it's exciting times for us. And it's been critical to our success in getting wellbeing so taken up in the business. Critical really has been the fact that we've worked together and that we are aligned as a team reporting into the same operational structure. So hopefully that's given you an insight, and thank you very much for listening.
So does anybody have any questions? If you want to pop them onto Slido, I've got a few coming through. There's quite a lot. Sorry, I'm going to have to use this mic.
Where do you want us to go?
You're in the middle. Please. There's quite a lot about PMI. People seem to be quite interested about the fact you've got those choices. So maybe if somebody said, what PMI choices did you introduce? Yeah. Did you open up PMI to join any time? Yeah. Can you elaborate, basically?
Okay, so we'd previously been working under the PMI with a guided model where the employees just got open referrals and were then directed to a consultant at a hospital. That didn't really work for us, although it's obviously a great way to save costs and control costs. It just didn't work from an employee perspective. So we moved back to pretty much you can choose who you go and see, you can choose what hospital you go to. What else did we do for that? Just trying to think. It was just really as I say, moving away from that guided model and then utilising everything available from the new provider to give people much easier access online and over the phone. It was also, they also had a really good mental health and physio backup system where the employees are actually employed there, and so when our people phone, they're talking to someone that actually works in that company rather than then talking to someone in another outsourced provider, which has really made a difference.
Right, a couple more questions coming out. I don't know whether to go financial wellbeing question, financial education, or the leadership question. Did you get leadership buy-in instantly? If not, how did you get it?
I wouldn't say we got it instantly. I would love to say that, but we're quite lucky in that we have a really accessible leadership team. So it wasn't that difficult. And we're lucky in that. We're not hugely hierarchical, so they're available. So by a general kind of knocking on the door several times, there are some clear wins to us to do this. We got fairly significant leadership buy-in fairly quickly. And it does help, certainly for us, having a leader who actually lives and breathes wellbeing. So with Joe Thompson, he cycles to work, he's had amazing parental leave, you know, he lives and breathes it, he's not just saying it, and people know that. And so he's genuine and authentic, and that carries a lot of weight with our employees. So, yeah.
Was there anything that didn't work? And how did you react to that then?
Ooh. I know, that's a good question. I think somebody said it earlier. One thing that we really noticed quite quickly is that a one-size-fits-all, I think Marcus said it in next door actually, definitely does not work. So historically what we've done is a massive wellbeing event. We're lucky to have a big town square in our building. And we did a kind of all singing, all dancing event, which was amazing, but it was only amazing if you could make it to that event. And so very quickly we realised that targeted health intervention was the way forward. So we had quite a lot of feedback from our cabin crew community, from our engineers and from our flight ops community that simply said we cannot attend. It's great if you're in the area, you work in head office. What about us? We're out there and we need it more. So that was a good salutary lesson. Whilst we still continue to do events in our sort of head office arena, we've made them much smaller and much more bespoke, hence we did the engineering, and it was a Christmas as well, so it was really good. We had lots of competitions with
lots
nuts
of walnuts
and engineering nuts, so we'll leave that.
But yeah, because they're operational areas as well, it's really key to get in at the right times that are suitable for them to access anything, because as we said, you know, anything can happen on a day in an airport. Or, so yeah, that was key as well. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
That is absolutely wonderful. Great case study. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.